Okay, this brings us to the mind symptoms of arnica. And I've already covered that it's a primarily a remedy for shock or any kind of trauma or impact to the body. So the mind symptoms are affecting the brain, and you'll see this in more severe cases. Well, fear of touch of affected part, we've already covered that. They're very protective of their affected part. They don't want you to come near them. They don't want you to touch it. They may be holding it like this. Where there's been any kind of unconsciousness, they may then start speaking to you quite incoherently, and they may not be able to perform tasks that they would normally be able to perform, and they can appear morose and sometimes delirious. Now, the nervousness comes from their oversensitivity to the pain. They can't bear the pain. Their whole body feels sensitive. Says there's nothing the matter with them, and clearly there is. May send you away, may send the doctor away, wants to be left alone. Now, a predominant symptom of arnica is that they have a fear of this open space when they're in this condition, and that could be due to shock and also mental strain. So we've covered mental strain and that overexertion of a muscle. Now, bringing you on to the abdomen symptoms. There's a lot of pain associated with the remedy of arnica, and it's extreme pain. They cannot bear the pain. So within the abdomen, you can see colic and cramps, sharp pains moving from side to side, bruised pain in their abdomen. Their abdomen may be distended, and they may be have foul-smelling eructations like flatulence or their breath. The back, you're gonna see a lot of backache from arnica. So I've seen a lot of backache in the lower back and a lot of pain, and arnica can be very useful in dealing with those symptoms. So backache from muscle strain and overuse, great soreness and pain in the back from overlifting. They can have pain in the hips. And you'll probably see bruises if there has been an injury, and the bruises of arnica tend to be black bruises, that real black and blue bruising. And again, you're seeing a lot of pain here, violent pain in the spine after rising or stooping for a long time. Cervical vertebrae tender, muscles of the neck are weak. Their head may fall backwards or from side to side, so they're doing this motion of their neck, and their sacrum feels as if it's been beaten. Now, arnica has a lot of bladder symptoms. It's not the primary remedy for conditions of the bladder, but it does have a lot of bladder symptoms. So if you have a patient with any bladder issues, please think of arnica, but you need to have other symptoms. So often these bladder symptoms are related to some mechanical injury. So retention of urine in bladder after the overexertion of labor. Now, labor is quite a trauma on the body, so you can see the trauma aspect there. Retained urine with aching and pressure in the bladder, bladder infections from mechanical injuries, and bladder tenesmus. So that's a painful urge to they've got that urging to urinate, even though that there's nothing there. They still that feeling that they want to urinate, and it's painful. Bladder feels sore. There's cutting pains. An infant with any kind of bladder condition is going to scream a lot in pain, and there's constant dribbling of urine after labor because the muscles have all been relaxed and there's been a trauma there. Now the breasts. Again, you're going to see these symptoms after some kind of mechanical injury, so particularly after childbirth, which is why arnica is such a great remedy for childbirth and following childbirth. So you may see sore nipples or mastitis from some kind of injury as well to that region, tumors of the breast, violent pains in the breast after delivery. So if your patient is complaining of pains in that area and they just had a baby, please think of arnica. And obviously, if you've got breast problems going on, it's going to be worse when you're nursing the baby. The chest, you're seeing burning pains, sharp pains under the false ribs. The false ribs are the lower 5 ribs that aren't actually attached to the sternum. So they're called the false ribs or the floating ribs. So it's the lower section of the chest. That's where you're going to see the pain of arnica. Bruised, aching sensation in the chest while walking, or just, generally. Sensation as if the ribs were broken when coughing, and bones of the cartilage and chest are painful. And again, we're bringing back those modalities, worse for motion, worse for breathing, because breathing is emotion, and of course coughing is emotion. So it's going to be worse for that because they're very bruised, sore, and a beaten feeling. So there's going to be a heaviness, they're going to feel pressure, there's pain, and pleurodynia. Okay, pleurodynia is, oh yes. So that's a side effect from a viral infection. So they've had an infection there, and it can be very painful. Cough. Cough produced by weeping and lamenting. Now these are, you will see these symptoms in arnica, probably not what you're going to think of. You're not going to think of cough. There's far other better remedies for coughs than arnica. But if you see these symptoms and there has been some kind of injury or trauma, then yes, consider arnica. So cough produced by weeping and lamenting, dry cough. The cough causes bloodshot eyes or a nosebleed. That would be a key symptom. A spasmodic cough. Cardiac cough, so something going on with their heart, cough after measles, or cough in sleeping without waking. So they're not, they're just coughing in their sleep. Ears. There's a lot of pain with arnica. So they've got pain in their ears. They may have blood coming from their ears from a mechanical injury. Suppurating otitis with stupor. So they've got some kind of ear infection, and they are stupefied. They're acting like a drunk person, and there's something coming out of their ears. So the cartilage of the ears, the outer ear, feels bruised, and there's pain there. Sensitive to shrill noise and sensitive to loud sounds, which you would think that would happen if you've got any kind of trauma or injury to the ears. So this is a trauma-based mechanical injuries. Hearing impaired from injury to the head. So again, that's coming from the ears, but is indicative of maybe some brain trauma. Dull hearing after concussion, the same. Hardness of hearing. Deafness after typhus. Don't see typhus too often anymore. Noises in ears caused by rush of blood to the head, and maybe even a humming sound, all from an injury or trauma to the head. Eyes could be bloodshot. They may look sunken. You'll see that black eye, that bluey black eye after injury. You may even see ulceration of the eye, and some kind of hemorrhage, so bloodshot. And a bruised, sore feeling in the eyes after close work. So that's like intense overexertion of the eyes. Arnica can be useful for that. Again, more eye symptoms. Eyes feel tired and weary after sightseeing because they've been concentrating and intensely looking. So there's been some, I suppose, some mechanical injury because they've been concentrating so hard, or there's just been an excess of eye movement. Lacrimation and burning, so there may be some discharge from the eye. The right eye protrudes, may look larger than the left, possibly. They like to keep their eyes open. They feel dizzy upon closing them. Photophobia, so they're having a reaction to sunlight or bright light. Pupils could be contracted or dilated. Now, the face is hot and red with cold legs. So you'll see this a lot in Arnica. They've got a hot head, but a cold body. The face may look sunken, like before. We talked about the eyes. Eyes sunken. The face may also be sunken. They can have acne on the face, and that would be sore and painful. Bruised feeling in the face. If they've got a headache, they'll be cold, they'll feel chilly. Can be a useful remedy for herpes on the face. And you might see with any kind of face trauma that the lower jaw hangs down as if it's paralyzed, some kind of paralysis. Redness and burning of one cheek. Now that you can also see in chamomilla. So look for other symptoms of arnica if you're going to prescribe arnica. Cheeks puffed and red, the body will be cold. Swelling of parotid gland during measles. So the parotid glands are here under the cheek, just in the top half of the neck. Must keep eyes open because they feel dizzy when closing them, or photophobia with that we've covered. Okay, so female symptoms can be used for this. Again, there are other remedies, so you have to do your comparisons. Their menses, their periods may come too early, and they may feel hot, and there's a profuse blood flow. So uterine hemorrhage. So as I've talked about, that arnica is a blood remedy, so you might see some bleeding after mechanical injury, after sex. So some sexual mechanical injury. And the hemorrhages, the blood that you'll see is bright red and could be mixed with clots. There could be discharge, bloody discharge between menses, ulcers of the uterus with a tendency to bleed. So you're going to see some bleeding, and it's going to be bright red blood, and it may be mixed with clots. Labia, painful and swollen, and a prolapse of the uterus caused by concussion because the muscles have been relaxed. There's been some trauma or mechanical injury. Okay, it says face, but it should say female there. So the ovarian region feels very sore, as if it's been sprained, and the patient will be inclined to walk bent over. So arnica can also be very good for a threatened miscarriage from a fall. So if there's any kind of trauma in pregnancy or any fall, think of arnica. Soreness of the whole body during pregnancy, feeling of the fetus lying crossways in the uterus. Cannot bear fetal movements, very sensitive to fetal movements, and that may be accompanied by a nausea and vomiting. So bruised part after labor, already mentioned that arnica is a brilliant remedy after childbirth. Soreness and lameness of parts after delivery, again, great to give after delivery of a baby. Violent pains, better for breastfeeding. Okay, so food, how we're going to see the preferences and aversions. So there's a loss of appetite. They can't bear the sight or the smell of food. Or it could go the other way, and they could have a canine hunger and they just want to eat. But often you're going to see a loss of appetite, and their stomach feels not right. They have a disgust for brandy, an aversion to milk and meat, and an aversion to broth, interestingly. I've already covered that they have aversion to tobacco. Now, a very strange, rare and peculiar symptom is a longing for vinegar. So if you see that after any kind of trauma or mechanical injury, that they're wanting those vinegary type foods, think of arnica. Desires sour alcoholic drinks. Well, that's yep. Constant desire to drink, but knows not why, as all drinks are offensive. And they can have a great thirst with a dry mouth. Okay, so head. So we're looking at head injuries here. So a hematoma, and a hematoma is caused after a very severe blow, and it comes up as a great bruise. It's really pronounced bruise, and that's all the blood congealing in one place, and there's a clot there. So caused by head injury, obviously there's going to be headaches or maybe migraines. You're going to see that hot head, may or may not be red, but they will complain their head's hot and their body will be cold. And they will have some brain symptoms. They'll be tired and they may have a burning sensation in their brain. They'll be confused, which you would consider natural if you've had a trauma to the head. And they've got sensitivity to their head area, their brain, and they've got pains, pinching pains. So it could be good for stroke victims with loss of consciousness and involuntary evacuations from bowel and bladder, where you would see paralysis. And they may complain that their head feels too large. So that's quite a predominant symptom where there's been head injury or trauma to the head. Headache, and the headache will feel as if there's a nail being pressed into the head. They could get headaches from strong emotions. They could have cold spots on their forehead or burning. They throw their head backwards or from side to side while walking. Baldness. Now, that is an interesting symptom that came up in the Materia Medica, so I've put it in there. May or may not see that. Wouldn't worry about it. Recurring boils on scalp, and they will be crops of boils. So you can see more than one boil, and scalp feels contracted. Okay, so there are heart symptoms with arnica, but please do your comparisons because there are other remedies that more predominantly deal with the heart. But usually comes from a shock or again, mechanical injury, you're going to see these symptoms. So sudden pain as if the heart is squeezed or they've had a great big shock, strain of heart, they could feel heart strain from violent running. They could feel weakness in their heart muscles. You might see palpitations after exertions or after any shock or injury. Their whole body may shake. And it can be a useful remedy for angina pectoris with severe pain in left elbow. So arnica is a left-sided remedy, and they're going to give you symptoms on the left side sometimes. And there could be a sharp pain in the heart. Heart pains, they may have a fear of death, cardiac dropsy, fatty heart. Their pulse could be feeble and irregular. So if they are in shock, it's of course good idea to take their pulse and just see what that's doing. It could be fluttering, it could be hurried, or it could be quickened. So yeah, it's always a good idea when you've got a patient that has suffered from shock or any trauma to take their pulse rate just to see what that's doing.